What's going on, guys? It's Brandon back here again, and today I wanted to go over a bit of what the draft lottery is because a lot of people find it confusing and say it's rigged, and for a while I actually did believe it was rigged, especially when the Rangers got Lafreniere. But the more I looked into it, the more I learned about it, the more I realized that it's not as rigged, I think, as people will understand. Or at least if it is rigged, it takes a lot of work to get it to be rigged. So here we have the teams that were in order and the teams that ended up getting the draft order. So we're going to go through this side and we're going to go through this side, and of course we have these teams on this side, which we'll talk about in a minute. So actually we'll just start with this. So all of these teams on this side are playoff teams. They are not lottery eligible. If you make the playoffs, you're not in the draft lottery. So that's all of these 16 teams that are not in it. 29 and 30 the picks are the losers of the conference final. Pick 31 is the loser of the Stanley Cup final. Pick 32 is the winner of the Stanley Cup. And everything in between 17 and 28 is just playoffs and finished standings and that sort of stuff. So, this is supposed to be the draft order of depending odds-wise. We'll start at the bottom with Calgary. Calgary and Nashville, both at 16 and 15, had a 0.5% chance of winning the lottery. The highest they could have moved up, Calgary would have been 6th, Nashville would have been 5th. Nothing else would have changed because you can only move up 10 spots. You also can only win the lottery once. If you've done it like in the previous 2 or 3 years, I think it was, you can't do it again. And that's why Chicago was allowed to do it. Like let's say Buffalo did it, or who won it last year? Montreal won the lottery. Montreal had already won the lottery in the previous season, so I'm pretty sure that's maybe because they were the worst team. It doesn't apply, but if Montreal did win the lottery, that it wasn't supposed to. Let's say wouldn't be like that. You couldn't. It wouldn't be allowed. They'd have to redo it. But anyway, so Calgary, Nashville is 0.5%. Pittsburgh at 14, 1.5%. Buffalo 2%. Obviously, Pittsburgh highest they can go is 4. Buffalo highest they can go is 3. Ottawa at 2.5, who Arizona has their pick because of the Chikrin trade. Highest they can go is 12th. Above this line is anyone who could have got first overall. That includes Vancouver at 3%. So Vancouver was obviously, if you've seen the thing, one number off. They were one number off on the final thing. Chicago's, I think, was 13 and theirs was 12, or Chicago's was 12 and theirs was 13 or something like that. I'm not sure how it was. But they were one number off of that first overall pick, which would have been crazy with 3% odds. St. Louis, 3.5%, Detroit, 5%, Washington, 6%, Philadelphia, 6.5%, Arizona, with their second pick, 7.5% at number 6. So they have pick 6 and pick 12 in this year's first round. Montreal, 8.5%, San Jose, 9.5%, and Chicago, 11.5%. We'll come back to them. Columbus, 13.5%, and then Anaheim, 18.5%. So those are the odds going into it. So that's how the odds stated. The only change we got in these three: Calgary, Nashville, Pittsburgh, Buffalo, Ottawa, Vancouver, St. Louis, Detroit, Washington, Philadelphia, Arizona, Montreal, San Jose. The bottom, from 4 to 16, everything stayed the same. Number 3 is the first change because Columbus moves down, and that means Chicago automatically moves up. They end up getting number 1. Anaheim gets number 2. So why do people say it's rigged? Because it's a big market. B, they like their NHL likes their big markets and likes monies, which is true. And C, I don't remember if I was going A, B, or C, or 1, 2, 3. And C, when the higher markets do better, the ratings go up, so that also increases profits. It's all about money, people say. It's all about money. If that were true, Florida would have never won the lottery in 2014, and a few other things as well. Anyway, so the big thing here is that Kevin Weeks, before the top 3 were selected, leaked that Columbus would be dropping, and there was a little bit of a mishap. They went to commercial break, and me and my dad are sitting there left like, wait, if Columbus dropped, that means the Hawks go up. So we make sure that Columbus did drop just to make sure. They do, so we either get 1 or 2. The way the lottery works is that there's actually 2 lotteries. There's the one for the first overall pick and the one for the second overall pick. Chicago's combination was the one because you use a system of ping pong balls. You got the ping pong ball machine. You put 16 ping pong balls inside. I'm pretty sure, something like that. And Then you take out 4 balls. Each team has a 4 ball code. For Chicago, it was, I think, 4, 5, 9, and 13. I think that was the code that they had. For example, Vancouver's was 4, 5, 9, and 12, so they were that one number off. If that lands that, Vancouver gets the first overall pick. But Chicago gets those numbers, they get the first overall pick, and then Anaheim, they won the second lottery. Obviously, their odds went way up after Chicago had won the first lottery. They win the second lottery, and so that's how that works. And another reason why I say it's not rigged is, if you look back at recent history, I decided to go back to all the way to 2002 because I feel like that was a set stone year, and that's also the first player that is actually retired from hockey, who's a first overall pick and is retired. 2002 was Rick Nash in Columbus. Columbus has had a first overall pick before. You go to 2003, that's Pittsburgh. Wait. The thing about 2002, 2003, both of those first-round picks were acquired from Florida. Columbus acquired that pick from Florida, and Pittsburgh acquired that pick from Florida. So Florida, they could have had Rick Nash and Marc-Andre Fleury. Remember that. 2004, Ovechkin. 2005 is Crosby. Crosby, there were rumors at the time it was rigged because the Penguins were on the verge of moving to Vegas, and it was a whole system. People believe the whole system that they used for the lockout was that they took the average of the teams' winning percentage of the 3 previous seasons, and that's why Pittsburgh got to draft first because they were the worst, and just so it was a way to keep Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh. But that is one of the cases. I'll give a hint that it could have been rigged to keep the Penguins in Pittsburgh. 2006, then you had the Blues with Eric Johnson. No, it's not rigged there. 2007 with the Hawks when Patrick Kane gets drafted. That's very similar, I feel like, to what happened here, except not as always controversial. Hawks were 5th worst in the league that year, and they beat the Flyers, who were the worst. Some people said it was rigged at the time, from articles I looked back at. Most, though, not mention of it. 2008 was Steven Stamkos, who went to Tampa. 2009 was the New York Islanders, who got John Tavares. And then you have the three-peat of the Oilers. Taylor Hall, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Nail Yakupov. Yakupov is out of the NHL. Taylor Hall won a Hart. And Ryan Nugent-Hopkins just had his first 100-point season. So, a mixed bag of goods, if you will. And by the third one, I'm pretty sure they believed it was rigged for Edmonton. But Edmonton was really bad back then. I remember growing up, Edmonton was just really, really bad. That's all I can remember about that era. I was young. I was at that age where I didn't fully understand divisions yet, and I just knew the Hawks were my team. I knew who they played in the playoffs. I didn't know like what the divisions were or like drafts and lotteries and all that stuff. I was still just a 6-year-old kid at that time. Then you had 2013, Nathan McKinnon goes to Colorado. Yep. 2014, Ekblad goes to Florida. For sure not rigged. 2015, McDavid. This one is, I don't believe, rigged because the 3 teams in it were Buffalo, Arizona, and Edmonton. But Edmonton actually was the 3rd worst. Buffalo was worst. Arizona was 2nd. So Edmonton moved up just like this. Then Buffalo, Arizona, that's how that worked. Of course, Edmonton gets McDavid. If Buffalo gets McDavid, who knows? Buffalo ends up picking Eichel, and Arizona gets a Dylan Strome, who's now been to Chicago and is now in Washington. Could have been, not likely. 2016 is Matthews. Toronto was their dropout year. 2017 was Heishier. It was at the time it wasn't considered a very deep draft. Then Makar happened. 2018 Dahlin. Fallen for Dahlin. There was nothing there. 19 Jack Hughes, and I remember them saying if the Rangers got it, it would be rigged because of big market, that sort of thing. Devils close enough to New York. People were making that connection, but I didn't see it. Chicago moving up to 3rd to select Kirby Dach that year. 2020 is the big one, I remember. When Lafreniere went to the Rangers, people were saying it was rigged. I remember that very vividly. But again, it's all the ping pong balls. That's the point I'm getting at here. Like you see these teams, you think it's because it's going to a big market team, it's rigged. We've seen in recent history, not many have gone to big market teams. You're going to consider Florida a big market team. Colorado, I'd say, is a more upper medium sized. Buffalo, they have a very passionate market, but I'd say no more than medium. Edmonton, okay, that's a decent sized market. Pittsburgh, medium-sized more now than it was before. New Jersey, again, more smaller end of medium. Rangers, obviously the biggest market. And then, of course, 2021, it's Buffalo again. 22 is Montreal, big market. And yeah, but they were the worst team in the league that year. And 2023, it's Chicago, which, similar to the 2020, when Lafreniere was drafted, Bedard now going to Chicago is going to be the whole it's rigged thing. So that's my perspective on it. Is the NHL draft lottery rigged? I just can't see it. At first, I know I said it a bit last night when I was so happy that it's probably rigged. That was more of me being joking around and me being just overly joyful that the Hawks were able to get the first overall pick. But after looking into researching this, I do not believe that the draft lottery is rigged. And I think it's people just upset at that big market teams are getting stars, and especially in the Chicago scenario, the Kyle Beach issue, the recent success, and Taves and Kane just departing just for them to get their next big star. Those three factors all contribute greatly to the hatred that Chicago's getting for moving up in the NHL, for being rigged. But you get the idea here. That's going to be all I have for you guys today. I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and I shall see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.